Hello, it's Burgess Taylor, and I am participating in a writer tag. The tag was created by Sara Crawford and Sarah Ella. I'm sorry. So I thought I'd do. I think they tagged me on Twitter. I think the tag happened while I was on vacation, so I'm finally getting around to it. The questions are there are 10 questions, so it's not going to be a very long tag, but I tend to ramble, so this might be a little bit longer than a 10-minute video. So the first question, what kind of writer are you? Fiction, poetry, plays, screenplays, nonfiction, etc. I write fiction and poetry. Number 2, when did you start writing and what made you want to try it? Snoopy, and it was a dark and stormy night. I have this book from when I was a kid, and it's yeah, I was a big fan of reading even in the first and second grade. I became an avid reader in the third grade. I've talked about this before. My father died at the end of second grade, and books were my escape and how I dealt with my grief for the most part. So Snoopy made me realize I could actually write stories. And then, I read like the Nancy Drew series. I read Stuart Little and Charlotte's Web. I read the Chronicles of Narnia. Big fans of those, really big fans. I still have the Stuart Little and the Charlotte's Web books from when I was a kid too. But in the fifth grade, my teacher, Mrs. Whitted, started reading aloud from a book. The book was called Salem's Lot by Stephen King. This is my copy from back then. This was published, it's copyrighted in 1975. I was in the fifth grade in 1977. So this is my book from back then. I think it's probably time I got a new one, but I can't seem to part with. I'm not going to part with this, but I do need a new copy. So Stephen King's Salem's Lot and the other books I mentioned were what made me truly fall in love with writing, and that the idea that I could actually become a writer, and that it was important to tell your stories and that you could tell them in a way that made people crawl inside that story and not want to put it down. That you're in the bed as a kid with a flashlight under the covers reading, and then you get in trouble and end up on restriction because you're reading when it's past your bedtime. And that was me. That was me. So, number 3, what inspires your stories or poems, plays, etc.? Real life experience, newspaper, or television news stories, books, history, photography, like a picture can inspire me. Other authors inspire me. Television shows, movies, stories that are told to you from your grandparents or parents, any number of things. I think sometimes I'm inspired by taking a walk or taking a drive, or hell, when I'm in the shower, when I'm sipping my coffee and watching the sunset or the sunrise. Number 4, what themes do you like to explore in your writing? I like supernatural themes. I like you can't judge a book by its cover. I like that differences aren't anything to be afraid of. Truth, justice, love, good conquers evil. That sometimes what we fear is actually the fear itself that holds us back. Um, and that sometimes it's a good thing to stand tall and to stand your ground and hold your head up high. So I'm sure that there are way more themes than that, but that's what comes to my mind right now. So our number 5, what are you, a pantser or a plotter or a bit of both? I've done several videos about this topic. I started out a complete pantser. I wrote from the seat of my pants. It was all about the creative process and coming up with the things, but I kept running into over and over again the saggy middle. So I decided I was going to become a big plotter. I was going to be like the outline queen. And I got a ton of books and I started outlining. I have index cards. I mean, hello? Index queen. Right here, index queen. So, whoa, and there they go. So, and I'm not going to edit that out because that was just, yeah. So I lost my rubber band. But, so what worked didn't work. I thought it would work because it works for so many other people, and the outlining is so important so that you don't have the saggy middle. But to be honest, I can put these up all I want to and then fill them in, and voila, I have instantaneous novel. But it sucked the creativity out of me. I mean, it just sucked all the creativity out of me. My muse locked up and went on hiatus and said, "The hell with you. You write your own damn book. I'm out of here. You don't need me. You got your damn index cards." So hardcore plotting, outlining did not work for me. I felt uninspired. By the time I finished the outline, I did not feel inspired anymore. So I started trying to figure out a way that I could kind of do in the middle, what I call a plotster. So I did some more research and I found that what I am is called a loose outliner. I outline the acts, I outline the beginning, the middle, the end, and then I briefly outline the chapters. Mostly what I do is outline my character arc, and I use the hero's journey for that. And then I outline 7 to 10 of the major plot points, like from like Save the Cat or John Marshall, the Marshall Plan, that kind of thing. And I use that, and then I just write. I don't outline my scenes or at all. So that's what I found that works for me. I'm also a very visual person, so I do a storyboard with those plots and the character arcs. So, number 6, where are you at in your journey? Querying, agented, published, what? I'm not published, I'm not querying, I don't have an agent, I'm in the writing process, I'm in the middle of writing my draft. So, I'm hoping to have my novel finished before the end of the year so that I can start the editing process and then start with beta readers at the beginning of this year, of the new year, of 2016, and then hopefully by the middle to the end of 2016 I will start querying for an agent and things like that. Number 7, have you ever entered any writing contest? If so, have you won? Did you become a finalist? That kind of thing. I entered a journalism contest in high school. I was on the newspaper staff. I was going to be a journalism major. I won. I think I took 2nd place. I actually got a scholarship because of it. But it wasn't a full scholarship, it was only a partial, so I didn't end up going to college for journalism. Then later on, I went to college in my early 30s and decided, after majoring in communications journalism, written communications, that wasn't really what I wanted. Then I decided to major in psychology, and then I decided to minor in creative writing, and I have not yet finished my degree. Real life tends to interfere, and I was a single parent raising kids by myself, so yeah, braces and all that kind of stuff became way more important than other things, so I had to stop college for a while. I will eventually probably go back, but I've been thinking about it. So, who are your writer heroes? Oh, back to the other thing. I entered a few poetry contests, short story contests in high school too, and in college. Had a few of my poems and a short story published, but they were published in like anthologies and the newspapers for college or for high school or whatever, and so I didn't get paid for them. So back to, who are your writer heroes? Stephen King, most definitely. He's my very favorite author. J.K. Rowling's The Harry Potter series, Anne Rice, because she published supernatural, paranormal books way before it was a thing, and that was very hard at that time to get those kinds of books published. Sue Grafton, because she has a female PI, a female main character protagonist in a mystery um, kind of genre that most of the time men are usually the protagonists. Um, Also, Patricia Cornwell for that very same thing. Her Scarpetta series is awesome, and probably there's like a ton of different writers that I admire, um, and a ton of people in the real world that have published their books on YouTube and in other places like that are outside of YouTube, and like people that my uncle published a book, um, and that just was very inspiring to me. Um, and then, there are a number of people on YouTube who have published their books, and I admire them for that. Um, have you been to a writing conference? No, I have not, other than the journalism conference. That's it. Top 3 tips you'd give to newbie writers. Number 1, find your own voice style, find what works for you, find the method that works for you. Like for me, it was a really big struggle. People say, oh, well, you have to pant, or oh, well, you have to plot. And honestly, you need to find what works for you. What works for one person or 10 people or 100 people or may not necessarily work for you. Some people prefer to write by hand and then put it into a computer. Some people can only write via a computer. Some people can only write with a typewriter, word processor, whatever. I find that when I get stuck and I can't seem to get it flowing, that sometimes pen and paper really helps me. So I do that a lot and then put it into the computer. But mostly I write on the computer using Scrivener, and that has been a godsend. I love Scrivener. Number 2 would be don't quit. I know that it's a struggle sometimes, that the self-doubt and the insecurity and the lack of support sometimes, or um, the lack of self-confidence or whatever can cause you to want to give up, but don't give up. Don't quit. If you're not writing, you're not going to get it written. If you don't get it written, you're never going to stand a chance of getting it published because you don't have a book because you didn't write it. So I say keep writing. Keep writing. Um, If you think your story is not good enough, set it to the side for a while and take a break from it. Start something new, or write some poetry, or do whatever, read some books. Take a break from your writing and then go back to it later. That's what has worked for me numerous times, because I'll be in the middle of writing it and then I go, oh my God, this sucks. I don't know why I'm bothering. And I want it to like just completely delete it, throw it in the trash, whatever. And instead, I just take a break from it and then I go back to it later once it's going to be fresh in my mind when I'm reading it, and then I go, hey, there's something to that. And even if the story that you've written, even if a lot of it needs to be edited, if your story is good, you can always edit it. That's the big thing. Most of the time, first drafts, and I've said this over and over again, first drafts are usually a piece of shit. They really are. So don't worry so much about whether it's full of errors or it has plot holes. When you're very first writing it, you can go back in once you get your story written and fix those things. That's what the editing process is for. Number 3, because I'm sort of kind of like a newbie writer anyway, because I don't have a book published. Even though I published some poetry and a short story, I haven't actually published a book. So I would say that the writer community is a great place to find inspiration and advice and information. It just, whether it's on YouTube, the WriterTube community is great, on Facebook, on WordPress, on Blogger, anything. There are a ton of articles and videos out there um, by people who are struggling to write their novels, or who have written their novels and are in the process of struggling to publish it, or who have just published it. And there are a number of advice videos, advice blog posts, all kinds of things. There's a really big community out there for writers. You just have to look. And if you encounter criticism, take it with a grain of salt. People want to be super critical. like just making this video, I'm sure there are going to be people out there watching that are going to be, well, like maybe her lighting sucks, or she hesitated, or she said a lot, or whatever. You know what? Um, I really don't care. I'm doing this to help somebody else out there who may be struggling, who might have anxiety, who might be too nervous to do a YouTube video, somebody who's struggling with their writing or their art or just regular stuff with anxiety, depression, or ADHD. And you know, if I can do it, and I never would have thought I could do it, my first few videos, I deleted them because um, I never even put them on YouTube because they were atrocious because I was so nervous, so filled with anxiety, had panic attack. And now it's almost a year later and I am posting videos and people are inspired by them. People make comments all the time about how they like the fact that my videos aren't perfect, that I struggle sometimes, but I'm still out here trying to do it and doing it. And maybe I don't edit and have like professional videos, or I'm not like a huge YouTuber and have all this knowledge about editing and getting all that kind of stuff done. But I'm learning as I go, and people have made suggestions that have been really helpful, and I have followed a great many of those suggestions, and I have a much broader range of people that I follow now for various reasons. And some of them have great videos and they're perfect, and some of them don't. And honestly, most of the time, I prefer the videos where they're just real and they're talking, and I feel like I'm in a real conversation with them. So, same way with the writing. I think it's really important that you know that maybe it's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. That is truly what the editing process is for. So just don't quit. Don't let self-doubt or insecurity or any of that get at you to the point where you quit. That's my biggest piece of advice, would be to just don't quit. Keep writing, keep trying until you feel like you found your groove. That's what it took for me participating in NaNoWriMo and Camp NaNoWriMo. I remember way back when I very first started NaNoWriMo type things, I watched Katie Tastic's videos, and this was way before she was like a huge YouTuber. I had a different channel then, um, and I never made any videos. Well, she didn't have perfect videos in the beginning. If you look back on her very first NaNoWriMo type videos, when she had the blonde hair, um, but you know what? Her videos spoke to me. She was real, and they were great videos about writing, and you could tell that she loved writing and that she loved books. And as her channel has grown, you can still tell how much she loves the books. I haven't seen very many writing videos lately, and I really do miss those. She's great with being an inspiration to people um, with her videos. But I guess the booktube thing is really hectic, and I don't know. Um, I still go back every now and again and will watch some of her videos when I'm in a NaNoWriMo event, because, and Christina Horner did some really great videos about NaNoWriMo. I love the writing process video. I find that to be inspirational and so true. So that, like I'm saying, if you are unsure yourself, just throw yourself into the writing community and don't give up. And that's it for me. If you are in the Write Stuff group, the hashtag Write Stuff group, you're tagged. If you are watching this and you're a writer, you are tagged. So I'm looking forward to seeing your guys' video. Thanks and bye.